Part 11. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 101. Chapter 101 I'm afraid, you can protect me instead. What they got was a campus horror book with 7 people, 3 girls and 4 boys. However, there were 2 girls and 5 boys in their group. In the end, they were unanimously asked to reverse the statement, and the protest was ineffective. After entering the room, everyone was assigned a script. Except for Shenyu and Jian, it was the first time for everyone else to play. Under the NPC's explanation, everyone roughly knows the rules of the game. To put it simply, everyone reads the script in their hands, then enters the plot, starts introducing themselves, chatting awkwardly, and then the deceased appears. Then there is evidence collection, uncovering the stories behind the characters, focused discussion, evidence collection, discussion, and finally voting to pick the murderer in your heart. At the beginning of the game, all the lights in the room suddenly went out, and a few candles were lit in the dark environment. The scary and eerie atmosphere suddenly emerged. Jian sat on Lu Ning's left-hand side, and Lu Xian sat on her right hand. The moment the candle was lit, Jian couldn't help but rub his arms and said, "What should I do? I'm already feeling terrified before I even start." "Then you still choose the horror book." They didn't understand it, so the script was written by Jian and Shen Yuxiao. Lu Ning glanced at the candles on the table, but she didn't think there was anything scary about them. Jian stuck out her tongue and said with a smile, "That's because horror is more exciting." Lu Ning said she had nothing to say. Suddenly, a warm breath came close to her ears, and she heard Lu Xian's voice ringing in her ears, "Don't be afraid, brother will protect you." Lu Ning turned his head and glanced at Lu Xian sitting next to him, and said with a serious face, "I'm not afraid." The little girl's voice was soft, but her expression was very calm, and she seemed to be really not afraid. "Tisk, you are so pretentious." Lu Xian couldn't help but licked his molars and said, "Okay, I'm afraid, so you can protect me instead." Lu Ning. "I really want to ask about this person's moral integrity." Lu Ning rolled her eyes at the other person and was too lazy to talk to him. Then she looked away and focused on the script in her hand. It took each person about 20 minutes to read the script in their hands. Once you have a general understanding of the characters you play and the plot, the next step is the process of various reasoning and evidence collection. The entire script took about 3 hours to play. After Jian came out of it, she was still full of thoughts. She hugged Lu Ning's arm and said, "Ning, you are so amazing. No one guessed that you were the murderer. It's like an old driver. It's not like it's your first time at all play." "It's okay," Lu Ning didn't think it was difficult. "But overall, it's quite interesting. The plot is quite attractive and brain-burning. It not only tests everyone's logical reasoning ability, but also increases the interaction between friends." It was this girl who was startled during the whole process, and her nerves became tense. "Classmate Song is also very good." Jian then looked at Song Tingzi next to him with starry eyes. Song Tingzi took the script of the second murderer. It turned out that one of the two was good at pretending and the other was good at pacing. In short, no one guessed that they were the murderers. Oh, there was also someone, that is, Lu Xian, who was targeting Song Tingzi throughout the whole process, trying every possible means to lead suspicions and clues to him, pointing out that he was the murderer, but unfortunately no one believed him. Everyone just sees this as a boring drama between a jealous man and his love rival. Lu Xian, I'm so angry. End of this chapter. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 102. Chapter 102 Have I offended you? It was past 12 o'clock when I came out of the store. I didn't feel hungry while playing. Now I feel like my chest is touching my back after I came out. There happens to be a small restaurant nearby. The group of people walked in directly. After ordering, they heard Lu Xian tell the waiter not to add onions and ginger, and then help Lu Ning iron the dishes skillfully. The group couldn't help but wink. Shen Yu said to Lu Xian, "Third brother, you are so considerate. If you don't know, you would think Sister Ning is your daughter." Even Jian Nian joined in the fun. No, 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 my dad is not so considerate to me." Lu Xian raised his eyes and glanced at everyone with a threatening tone. "What, you want me to scald your bowls too? No, 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 we can do it ourselves. Yes, yes, just take good care of Sister Ning, we won't worry about you." "That's right, how can we bother you, you are Sister Ning's personal servant, we can't afford it." Everyone spoke one after another. A group of people ended their lunch while laughing and joking. Coming out of the restaurant, Shen Yu asked everyone, "Where should we go to hang out next?" The statement suggested, "How about going to the video game city? It's been a long time since I went to play." Lu Xian lowered his head and looked at Lu Ning. Lu Ning glanced at Song Tingzi, who probably didn't like the environment there, and said, "You go, I won't be with you, I have to go back." "No, Sister Ning, it's still early. It's just that it's rare to come out to play, it's so disappointing that you're gone now." Upon seeing this, Lu Ning asked Song Tingzi, "What about you? Do you want to go together? It's okay if you don't want to go." Song Tingzi, "It doesn't matter to me." "Okay, let's go," Lu Ning said to everyone. Everyone immediately walked towards the arcade city laughing and noisily. Only one person's face is not very good looking. This girl actually cares about the other person so much that she doesn't forget to ask the other person's opinion even when going out to play. That boy is already so important in her mind? Lu Xiancheng kept a straight face and said nothing. Even when others took the initiative to talk to him, his expression was indifferent. He looked obviously unhappy. "What's wrong with you?" Lu Ning was the first to notice something was wrong with him. "Humph," Lu Xian glanced at her, and then snorted heavily. Lu Ning was confused by the hum. "Have I offended you? What kind of temper is this guy showing? And this temper seems to be directed at her." Lu Xian gave her a look that said, "It's good if you know," he said sullenly. "What's going on between you and that kid? What's going on? Can this guy stop talking so stupidly that he really thinks that everyone else is just a roundworm in his belly?" Lu Xian snorted again and said, "You take him with you when you go out to play. Do you two have a good relationship? Are you angry because of this?" Lu Ning felt that this guy was a little confused. She glanced in the direction of Song Tingzi and saw that the other person's attention was not on their side, so she explained to Lu Xian in a low voice, "I happened to bump into him when I was going out in the morning. He asked me where I was going, and I said I wanted to come and play. The script was over, so he asked if we could join him. I thought it wouldn't matter if I had one more person, so why did you keep targeting him?" Lu Shixin said that he had really been provoked, and he actually came to people from him. Wasn't that just because he had been provoked? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is sweet and wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 103. Chapter 103 Is He That Good? Lu Xian's mood improved slightly when he heard that the other party wanted to come with him instead of the girl taking the initiative to invite him. However, he was still a little angry. He glared at her and said, "If he comes, just bring him. Then if he asks you alone next time, do you also plan to go out with him?" These are two completely different things. Okay, Lu Ning felt that the other party was being a bit unreasonable. Besides, why did he ask me to hang out with him so well? Are you thinking too much? Do you think everyone else is following him? You seem to know how to play every day, okay. At least during the month she lived in the Song family, the other party stayed at home every weekend to read and write questions. I rarely even look at my mobile phone. Lu Ning wondered if his phone only had a call function. So when the other party said they wanted to go out together, she was no less surprised than the others. When Lu Xian heard that this girl actually stepped on him and praised that guy, the anger he had just suppressed suddenly came up again. Yes, I am ignorant and have no skills, so I can't compare to others. He is so good, why don't you continue to live there? In the Song family, wouldn't it be better to get along with each other day and night and make progress together? Lu Ning frowned. Why are you so angry? Isn't what I said wrong? Lu Xian, you are right, you are right. His perfunctory tone was very much like a quote from a scumbag. You are simply incomprehensible and unreasonable. Lu Ning didn't want to talk to the other person anymore. She glared at him and walked in the direction of Jian Nian ahead. As soon as he took a step, Lu Xian pulled him back. In fact, he regretted it when he saw the girl was angry, but he couldn't save the face to apologize, so he only said, anyway, you are not allowed to get too close to her in the future. Lu Xian, can you be reasonable, not to mention the special relationship between her and Song Tingzi, it was impossible not to have contact with each other, and she did not alienate others for no reason. Is he that good? Lu Xian gritted his teeth, becoming increasingly angry. It was better when I was a child, he would do whatever he said, but now that I have grown up, I no longer listen to him. This is not a question of whether it is good or bad at all. Lu Ning felt that there was a high probability that he would not listen to reason with him at this time. However, she can't alienate others just because of their words. He is completely making trouble without reason. Lu Ning pulled her wrist out of the opponent's hand and strode towards Jian Nian's direction. What's wrong with you two? Jian Nian saw her coming and couldn't help but steal a glance in Lu Xian's direction. Seeing the other person's darkened face, Jian Nian couldn't help but ask Lu Ning in a low voice. It's nothing, he's sick. Lu Ning also felt angry. Hearing this, Jian Nian blinked at her and said with a smile, I probably know what disease he has. Lu Ning turned to look at the other party. Jian Nian, I heard that male animals will become aggressive when they feel threatened, especially in front of the opposite sex. The third brother is obviously jealous. Lu Ning's heart skipped a beat, but her face remained calm. What nonsense are you talking about? That guy doesn't like me. How do you know that third brother doesn't like you? From her point of view, it's obvious that he likes you. Not to mention that she is protective and pampering, and she is considerate in every aspect. Her boyfriend is not as careful as the other person. I heard what he said with my own ears. That guy had sworn before that he didn't like her. End of this chapter. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 104. Chapter 104. It's so embarrassing, I really want to pretend that I don't know the other person. Really, Jian Nian couldn't be fooled. In her opinion, the third brother's thoughts about Ning Ning were already obvious. Otherwise, he wouldn't have looked unhappy when he saw Ning Ning coming out with classmate Song. He thought for a while and said, have you never heard of the word duplicity? I'm afraid it's not that the third brother doesn't like it, but he's just too stubborn to admit it. Lu Ning suddenly thought of the guy who suddenly asked her if she wanted to be his girlfriend some time ago. At that time, I thought the other party was strange. Could it be? Okay, this is just your guess. If she guesses wrong, wouldn't it mean that she is being pretentious? Besides, she just wants to study hard now. Because of the weekend, the arcade town is full of people. The group first went to the service desk to exchange game coins. Ning Ning, let's go play the dancing machine. Jian Nian took the redeemed game coins, took Lu Ning's hand and walked towards the dancing machine. There are too many people, let's forget it. Lu Ning didn't want to play as soon as she saw the people in line in front of her. She turned around to see if there was anything else she could play with, but she saw Lu Xian walking up to Song Tingzi with a bunch of coins in his hand and saying, "Are you interested in competing?" Third brother, he really regards classmate Song as his love rival. Jian Nian's voice suddenly sounded in her ears, and the girl didn't know when she noticed the situation there. But compared to playing games, isn't third brother a bit bullying? At first glance, classmate Song didn't often come to this kind of place, but the third brother was a frequent visitor here, and there was no machine here that he was not familiar with. No matter what the competition between these two people is, student Song is obviously at a disadvantage. "Do you want to help him out or something?" Jian Nian looked at Lu Ning. However, Lu Ning stood still. "Let them solve it themselves," she said. Lu Xian was angry because she brought Song Tingzi out, although she felt that the other party's anger was quite unreasonable. If she continued to help Song Tingzi speak for him, that guy might make things even more difficult for him. Jian Nian thinks about it too. "Do you think Mr. Song will agree?" As soon as he finished speaking, Song Ting said, "Okay. Don't say I'm bullying you, just compete in shooting." Lu Xian probably also knows that if you win in a game console competition with your opponent, you will be called a bully. However, most boys will do it in basketball, which is more fair in comparison. Song Tingzi had no objection, and the two immediately came to the shooting machine. "I didn't expect classmate Song to really agree. Let's go and have a look," Jian Nian said, holding Lu Ning's hand. Lu Ning didn't want to go, but before she could say anything, Jian Nian had already pulled her to the shooting machine. Out of the corner of his eye, Lu Xian caught two people walking over, picked up a few game coins and put them into the machine. The basketball gate opened and a row of basketballs rolled out. Lu Xian picked up a basketball and spun it in a circle on his fingertips. Then he raised his long arm and the basketball flew out of his hand and fell steadily into the basket. "So handsome," Jian Nian on the side couldn't help but exclaimed infatuatedly. It made everyone around look over. Lu Ning. "It's so embarrassing, I really want to pretend that I don't know the other person." Lu Xian picked up a basketball again and looked at Song Tingzi beside him. "Looking at you, you probably don't come to places like this often. Let's give you 10 seconds to shoot first." Song Tingzi, "No, let's just start." After saying that, he pressed the start button, then picked up a ball, raised his hand, and the ball also landed steadily in the ball frame. The number on the counter also changed from 0 to 1. End of this chapter. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 105. Chapter 105. You win. Jian Nian's eyes became bright again. However, Lu Ning prevented her from screaming again and reached out to cover her mouth in advance. Lu Xian didn't say anything when he saw this, and started to concentrate on shooting. The two of them go back and forth, and almost every shot is sure to hit. The scores are also about the same as each other. Jian Nian patted Lu Ning's hand and motioned for him to let go. Lu Ning glanced at her and reminded, "Stop yelling." After saying that, he let go of her. Jian Nian grabbed her hand and said excitedly, "Which one of them do you think will win?" "Have no idea. Judging from the current shooting situation, the two scores are almost the same. It's hard to say who will win and who will lose." Until he stopped counting and looked at the identical scores, Jian Nian clicked his tongue and said, "It seems that these two people are really at loggerheads." Lu Xian frowned and said, "Continue." Since both of them exceeded 50 points in the first game, they directly entered the second game. In the second game, Lu Xian's movements were much faster, and he was also a little more impatient. There were several mistakes during this period, but Song Tingzi was always calm and maintained the same frequency. When the final results came out, Song Tingzi's score was about the same, just 1 point more than Lu Xian. Lu Xian stared at the score on the scoreboard, his face getting darker and darker. Finally, he glanced at Song Tingzi and said, "You win." After that, he turned around and left the arcade. Will third brother be okay? Jian Nian glanced at the direction the other party was leaving worriedly. It's okay, I'll go check on him, Lu Ning said and followed him out. When Lu Ning chased him out, she saw him standing in front of the vending machine, bending down to take out a can of drink from it. Lu Ning walked up and ordered the same can as the other person. Lu Xian lowered his eyes, glanced at the other party's movements with the corner of his eye, and then pulled the ring on the drink with one hand. Just as he was about to bring it to his mouth, his hands were suddenly empty and Lu Ning snatched the can in his hand, and then gave the other person the can he just got. Lu Xian pursed his lips, glanced at her and said nothing. He didn't rush to open it anymore. Instead, he held it in his hand and lowered his eyes, not knowing what he was thinking. Lu Ning brought the drink to her mouth, took a sip and said, "Are you still angry?" "When did I get angry?" Lu Xian snorted lightly. "Okay, I said something wrong. I just saw a few new dolls coming out of the claw machine. Go and pick them up for me." Lu Ning didn't say anything about the competition just now. I guess this guy didn't want to come either. Others mention it? Lu Xian threw the can in his hand upwards, then grabbed it, stood up and said to her, "Let's go." When passing in front of Song Tingzi, Lu Xian's steps paused, but he soon regained his composure. Although it was quite shameful to lose the game just now. However, he won't lose anything else. In front of the doll machine, Lu Xian pointed at the doll inside and asked Lu Ning, "Which one do you want?" "Any one is fine, I think they are all cute." Lu Ning didn't really want the doll, but just to divert the other person's attention, she answered casually when he asked. He heard Lu Xian say, "Okay, wait." Lu Ning originally only wanted one, but soon she had a bunch of dolls in her hands. Upon seeing this, the children ran over and looked at the doll in Lu Ning's hand with envy. Then everyone gathered around Lu Xian, looking at him with bright eyes, full of admiration. "Brother, you are so awesome. Brother, can you teach us how to clip dolls? Brother, you must be the doll pinch Superman, right?" End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 106. Chapter 106, Coax Him. Lu Ning couldn't help but laugh when she heard the words Puppy Superman. I still remember the first time I came to the video game city with the other party in the first year of junior high school. It was Lu Ning's birthday, but Tang Li had to go to other provinces because of a case that day and couldn't make it back in the evening. He had to order a cake in advance and entrust the next door family to help celebrate her birthday. It was the second birthday after her parents divorced, but her parents were not around. Even though Tang Li called her early in the morning and prepared a gift for her in advance, Lu Ning was still unhappy. Lu Xian said he wanted to take her to a place, so he took her and sneaked out through the back door of the school. That was the first and only time Lu Ning skipped class. That time, Lu Xian took her to the video game city, pointed at a row of game consoles and asked her which one she wanted to play. Lu Ning pointed at the doll in the claw machine and told him he wanted that one. Lu Xian was just like now, patting his chest and asking her to wait. Then he exchanged all his pocket money for game currency. As a result, all the pocket money was spent, but he didn't even get a doll. In the end, the boss couldn't stand it anymore and saw that the two of them were standing in front of the claw machine and refused to leave. He gave them both a gift and then they left. And that doll has been kept by Lu Ning until now. Later on, he would play with dolls every time he came to the arcade. Later, he became more and more proficient in doll clipping, and he caught more and more dolls, and all of those dolls belonged to Lu Ning. To this day, she doesn't even know how many dolls there are in her room. That's enough, I can't take it off anymore. Seeing that he had almost finished all the dolls in the claw machine, Lu Ning couldn't help but tug on his sleeve. Lucien then gave up and said to the circle of little carrot heads at his feet, "Okay, I'll teach you how to play next time, so go back." The little carrot heads raised their little heads one by one, looking at the doll in Lu Ning's hand reluctantly. Seeing that Lu Ning felt soft, he gave the doll to them, and then they shouted happily, "Thank you sister," and then left in a hurry. Seeing that she had given away all the dolls, Lucien couldn't help but snorted, looked at her with a half smile and said, "I worked so hard to get you to be a good person. There are so many, and do you see how happy they are?" Lu Ning said with a smile, looking in the direction the group of little guys were leaving. "You gave them all the dolls, but what about yourself? Didn't you say you wanted them?" Lu Ning shook the only remaining doll in her hand and said, "This is enough for me. Besides, you are so good, just help me pinch it next time." I don't know which of her words pleased the other party. Lucien's face became more beautiful to the naked eye. He slightly raised the corner of his mouth and said, "Okay, let me know which one you like next time." Coming out of the arcade, Jian Nian winked at Lu Ning and said, "Okay, I really have you, can you coax her to it so quickly?" Lu Ning glanced in Lucien's direction, and the corners of her mouth raised slightly unconsciously. This person seems to have always been easy to coax. The other person will not be angry for more than a day at most. The next day, he will be angry and come to her again like nothing happened. Most of the time it doesn't even take a day, maybe a few minutes, maybe a few hours. Maybe you were angry at the time, but when you look back, you start talking about the older sister and the younger sister again, forgetting everything that happened before. I even forgot that I was still angry. End of this chapter. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 107. Chapter 107, We agreed to be bad students together, but you secretly rebelled. Early on Monday morning, the ranking list for the midterm exam was posted on the school bulletin board. With the way, some people are happy and some are sad. Lu Ning's grades are very stable, ranking first in her class and among the top 3 in her grade. Lucien actually did well in the exam for the first time. Although he was far behind Lu Ninglei, he was much better than Chu Nan and Shu Shu. The two finally believed that the other party was serious about his theory that he was not a scumbag. However, the two of them were not used to the fact that the other party did so well in the exam all of a sudden. The moment I saw the results, I couldn't help but feel betrayed. Third brother, you are not very loyal. That is, we agreed to be scumbags together, but you secretly rebelled against us. You are abandoning your brothers. The two of them looked at him with resentment in their eyes. Lucien took a look at the ranking on the score sheet. It was still a little worse than he expected. It seemed that it was still important to work hard the day after tomorrow. However, it should be enough for him to negotiate terms with the head teacher. As soon as the midterm exam results came out, the class teacher began to talk to people in an orderly manner. Mainly for filling in the application form. Lucien was the last one to be found. I did well in this midterm exam. In the office. The head teacher first affirmed his results this time. It was beyond his expectation that this kid could do so well. It should be said that this kid's grades were quite high when he entered school, but his monthly exam scores got worse every time. It's not like he didn't talk to the other party. But this kid always goes in and out of one ear, so he doesn't bother to bother. After all, there were so many students in a class, and it was impossible for him to just stare at one person. Besides, it's good that the other party is willing to listen. For someone like him who is unruly, no matter how much he talks, it will be in vain. Unexpectedly, this exam gave me an unexpected surprise. Lucien, it's not bad. Head teacher. This guy is not modest at all. The head teacher coughed lightly and said, it's good to make progress, but don't be too proud. Then he got down to business. I've seen your class placement application list. Is it your own idea that you want to study literature? Or what do the family think? It's my own idea, Lucien said. The old Lu family values democratic education. Both Jishu and Lu Yu believe that childhood is only once, and the most important thing is to be happy. So since they were young, the two of them would give priority to his own ideas on many things, as long as this kid didn't cause too much trouble for them. Based on your scores in the monthly exams and midterm exams, I think it's more suitable for you to study science. Do you want to go home and discuss it with your family and think about it carefully? This kid has a smart mind and a person. He's quite smart, but he's too impetuous and can't calm down to study hard. He's a good student in theory, but I'm afraid he wouldn't be suitable for studying literature. Teacher, there is no need to think about it, I will choose liberal arts, Lucien said. Why don't you kid listen to others' advice? This is a major event that will affect your whole life. Hearing this, the head teacher couldn't help but frown. Don't worry, teacher, since I have chosen, I will definitely learn well, Lucien said swornly, almost without beating his chest. How about this? I promise you, I will improve my liberal arts scores in this final exam, but, how about you agree to do me a little favor? End of this chapter. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 108. Chapter 108 Gentleman's Agreement. What do you want the teacher to do for you? This boy actually offered to improve his grades, which surprised the class teacher of class 13. If he can really help the other person study hard, he will be happy to help not only with a small favor, but also with a big favor. Lucien, if I can get into the top 200 in my grade in this final exam, can you find a way to put me in the same class as Lu Ning from class 12 when we divide classes next semester? There are 4 key classes in the sophomore year of high school, 2 key classes in liberal arts and 2 key classes in science. There are about 50 people in a class. In other words, if you want to enter a key class, you have to be at least in the top 200 to have any chance. What? Hearing this, the latter immediately blew his beard and glared. I'm telling you, put away your caress as soon as possible, and don't think about huo, a good student. Lu Ning from class 12 is a good candidate. I heard that the teachers in the liberal arts class are rushing to get her. The key person, the little girl, is beautiful. Isn't it obvious that this brat wants to be in the same class with him? He can't harm a good student because of an ignorant brat. Lucien put on a decent face and said righteously, Teacher, what are you talking about? I just heard that classmate Lu has good grades. I don't want to be her classmate and study with her. Humph, don't think I don't know what you are thinking. No matter how nice you say it, it's useless. Let me tell you, puppy love is forbidden in number 1 middle school. No matter what idea you have, give it up as soon as possible. I can't help you with this. We are all foxes of thousands of years, who can we play in front of? Furthermore, with the results of this little girl, you can definitely get into a key class. Do you think you can do it? If you really have that ability, just take the exam yourself. Lucien said with a smile, aren't there 2 key classes? Even if I can pass the exam, I won't necessarily be in the same class as the other person, so why don't I ask you for help? The head teacher stared at him and was so angry that he couldn't speak. But if this guy really wants to get into the top 200, he should have no problem getting into a key liberal arts class. After all, according to previous years, most of the top 200 students will choose science. It doesn't sound like I can't help you at all. Although he felt that this guy would probably fail the exam. But what if, does this count as saving a lost boy? After a moment of silence, the other party said, okay, if you can really get into the key class, I will help you. But you can't affect the little girl's study. Lucien curled his lips and said, don't worry, I promise it won't be affected. Then we have agreed that if I get into a key liberal arts class, you will help put us into the same class. This is our gentleman's agreement, No one is allowed to go back on his word. Okay, can the teacher still lie to you as a child? You should think about how to get into the top 200. There are less than 2 months left before the final exam. Although the teacher wants to believe you, but before ranking 200 is not that easy to pass, especially with your current grades. That's all. It's always a good thing if you are motivated, and the teacher won't discourage you. In short, if you need help with your studies, just come to the teacher. Thank you, I'll leave first. Lucien put his hands in his pockets and turned around. When I went out, I almost ran into another teacher who came in from outside. Lucien called the teacher and went out. The latter frowned, with a hint of displeasure clearly flashing in his eyes. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The School Sweetheart Soft Green Plum is Sweet and Wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 109. Chapter 109, What should I say when I go back so that I don't get beaten? The person who came in was the class teacher of Class 11. The average score of Class 11 in this midterm exam was the first, and 2 of the top 3 in grade were in her class. Among them was Song Tingzi, who had just transferred to another school and ranked first in his grade. Moreover, she has just been rated as an advanced teacher this year, and there is a high probability that she will teach a key liberal arts class for the sophomore year of high school next semester. It is the time when the spring breeze is triumphant. However, it is precisely because she is too strict in her studies that she is called the devil by the students. The female devil has always looked down on poor students and felt that they were not motivated. Naturally, she had no good impression of Lucien, a bad student who was called out by the dean every now and then. She felt that the school should not have recruited such students in the first place, which would have lowered the school's grade. Putting away the disgusted expression on his face, the other party immediately looked at the class teacher of Class 13 and said, "Isn't this Lucien from your class? What kind of trouble has he gotten into?" The head teacher of Class 13 said with a smile, "This kid came to tell me that he wanted to be among the top 200 in the final exam. Let me see." Although he felt that the kid was lying, his students were making progress. This is a good thing. The female teacher looked at the direction Lucien was leaving in surprise. Top 200? Are you sure you heard it right? I heard that his previous results were the last in the grade. You also said that was before. I think he has made great progress in this final exam. Although he is still far behind the 200th place, but if he works hard, maybe it will come true. It is a good thing for students to want to make progress. Let's as a teacher, isn't it just to guide students upward? You can't dampen students' enthusiasm. Haha, the female grinder laughed perfunctorily, her expression clearly disapproving. I really thought I was a genius. I wanted to go from the bottom to the top 200 in less than 2 months. I am afraid I am not just dreaming. Thinking that other students are just like him and do not do their job properly every day. However, fortunately, she is not a student in their class, so she doesn't need to worry. Otherwise, she wouldn't even bother to deal with a student like this. As soon as Lucien returned to the class, he was surrounded by Statement and Chunan. What did the head teacher tell you? Seeing as you did so well in the exam this time, you don't need to be scolded, right? Lucien, I didn't say anything. I just said that he was optimistic about me and thought I was a promising talent. He asked me to continue working hard and bring glory to the school. Although the other party didn't say that much, the translation still meant the same thing. Real or fake? Statement and Chunan couldn't help but look at each other, expressing deep doubts about his words. Didn't he say before that you were good for nothing but your face? It was possible for him to continue working hard. To gain glory, third brother's bragging is a bit too much. Lucien lazily said, aren't you allowed to change his opinion of me? the highest level of bragging. As long as anyone dares to listen, he dares to brag. The two of them thought about his test results this time, and it was not entirely impossible. He really said that. I didn't expect our old classmate to be such a generous person. Look, in order to motivate the third brother, he can even say such things that he doesn't even believe. It's considered well-intentioned. Well. Thinking about his pitiful score again, Jiangshu couldn't help but let out a long sigh and said with a bitter look on his face, "The head teacher announced that my mother will come to school tomorrow to meet you. What do you think I should say when I go back so that I don't get beaten?" End of this chapter. The school sweetheart soft green plum is sweet and wild. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 110. Chapter 110. I think you are trying to embarrass me. Lucien was watching the excitement and didn't think it was a big deal. It's useless no matter what. I advise you to stop struggling. If I were you, I would take the initiative to give the stick to the other party when I get home and take off my pants. Maybe your mother will see your attitude of admitting your mistake. For the sake of good, I'll slap you a few times less. Statement. The third brother's mouth is full of bamboo shoots. After school in the afternoon, Lu Ning came out of class and saw Lucien leaning on the stairs, waiting for her. Lu Ning couldn't help but smile and walked forward, took out a bottle of the drink that the other party often drank from her school bag and handed it to him. I heard that you did well in the exam this time. This is a reward for you. Lucien took the drink and tsked, even the head teacher said that I have made great progress this time, so you just reward me with a drink. Isn't it a bit stingy? Otherwise, what do you want? Lu Ning looked at the other party. As long as this guy's request is not too excessive, considering how much progress he has made this time, it is not impossible to satisfy him. Lucien, didn't the head teacher praise me today? As you know, I don't usually praise me. I'm going to get carried away if I get complimented without warning. Then I told the class teacher that I would be in the top 2 grades of my grade by the end of the semester. Hundreds of people. I've already said this. It would be so embarrassing if I did poorly in the final exam. Why don't you help me review next? Lu Ning. I think you are trying to make things difficult for me. Although he did make great progress this time, from the last place in the grade to the bottom 200. At first glance, it sounds like he has made a lot of progress, but there are nearly 800 students in the entire first grade of high school. In other words, with more than a month left, he has to improve from the top 500 to the top 200. This cannot be said to be difficult. It is simply as difficult as climbing to the sky. The reason why he was able to improve so much all at once this time is because the people at the bottom of the rankings are all similar to him. They are all people who usually don't work hard and don't want to study hard. He can surpass everyone just by working a little harder. But the above people are all people who have a foundation and are working hard. If he wants to surpass so many people at once, hard work alone will not be effective. Not to mention it was in such a short period of time. Lucien kept a very low profile and said in an almost coaxing voice, "Good sister, just tell me whether you want to help me or not. My brother is completely dependent on you this time." I know, Lu Ning twitched the corner of her mouth. It's rare that this guy is willing to make progress. It seems a little unreasonable for her not to help. She couldn't guarantee the top 200, but she could at least make him improve a little bit. Even if you improve a few dozen places, it would be good. It was all for the sake of Aunt Ji and Uncle Lu. Seeing that his goal was achieved, Lucien couldn't help but reveal a successful smile on his face. After dinner at Lu's house in the evening, Lucien followed her out carrying her school bag. "What are you doing?" Lu Ning looked at the other person in confusion. Lucien raised his eyebrows. "I'm going to your house to review." "Didn't you say that time is tight?" "Of course you must seize the time." Lu Ning. "There is no need to be so anxious." "But forget it." It was rare for him to be so positive, and it was not easy for Lu Ning to dampen his enthusiasm. Just don't know how long the other party can hold on. Seeing that the two children have such a good relationship, and hearing that the brat has improved in this exam, the three adults in the family are very happy. Especially when they heard that the brat took the initiative to ask Ning Yetu to help him with tutoring, they all felt that the boy had improved. End of this chapter.